So this is the new Fujinon 18-55 t2.9 cine zoom lens for Sony E-mount. This lens covers super 35mm but not full frame. There's no ramping and the aperture is a constant t2.9. As you can see on the back, this is a fully manual lens. It's not got any electronic connections back here whatsoever. It has 3 rings: focus, iris and zoom, and they're all geared with 0.8 mod pitch lens gears, so you can actually put motors or follow focuses on there easily. Things to note straight away: this lens does not extend in length like other zoom lenses that you might find. So as I zoom in and out, there's no change in length whatsoever. All 3 rings are beautifully smooth. There's a nice amount of rotation for the iris and the zoom, and it's nicely dampened. The focus has a 200-degree rotation, and the close focus is just below, it's about 0.8 something of a meter, 2 foot 10, something like that, a bit less than that actually. It goes, as you'll notice, past infinity when you focus. I guess that's for heat tolerances or any sort of calibration issue that you might have. So unlike a lot of other cine lenses, it doesn't stop at infinity. It goes or goes slightly past. It goes quite a long way past infinity. So that's obviously a design choice there from Fujinon. Okay, if you look at the iris, there's a 9-bladed iris in here, which if you close down is pretty round, as you can see. As you'll know from the test shots that we've done, the bokeh is really quite lovely with this lens. Certainly comparable to a lot of primes that I've seen, cine primes. I don't think it's objectionable at all. It's really quite pretty. The lens has very little breathing as you rack focus from near to far, and that's really impressive. It's also something you don't see on cheaper stills lenses. Let's talk briefly about the fact this lens is actually parfocal. So when you put this on and set it up correctly, when you zoom through, it will hold focus. There's a flange back adjustment here, which I can move, which is just like a broadcast lens, and that allows you to effectively set the back focus so that you do get perfect tracking of zoom as you zoom through. Very nice feature to see in a not too expensive cinema zoom lens. So in a way, this is very much like a meeting of the broadcast lens with the cinema zoom lens at an affordable price, which is what I find quite interesting. Okay, one thing to note is that if you've got a 200-degree rotation for your focus, then it actually does take quite a few turns if you're doing it by hand to get it from one end to the other. Now, it isn't very typical that you go all the way from 0.85 all the way to infinity in one shot. You know, you're more likely to go from somewhere like infinity down to 2 meters, or 2 meters down to 1 point, something, or 0.9. But, be aware that that is going to cause you a problem if you're going to go all the way from one end to the other. You're probably going to need a follow focus to do that, or it's going to look slightly strange. Now, the lens itself is incredibly light for a cine lens, and that's partly because Fujinon have designed it that way, because they see this lens as being used with cameras like the FS7, FS5, and perhaps even the A7S or A7R Mark II or A6500. So to make that happen, they've used this kind of polycarbonate sort of plastic that you're perhaps used to seeing on DSLRs for large parts of the lens. Some of the bits are still metal. These rings are still metal, but this bit here is plastic, and you can hear it makes a slight sort of rustling noise as I move across it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It'd be made of plastic. Well, my experience is that stuff tends not to be any less robust than metal unless you drop it really badly, in which case the lens is out of whack anyway, and you probably need to send it back for a complete recalibration, at which point they probably could, if that was plastic that was cracked, they'd just change it. So I don't mind it so much. Other people might have a different view, but for me, that being made out of plastic isn't a really big issue. These bits at the back, it's hard to tell, I think these are sort of plastic as well. Now, while I'm here, you'll notice this is the macro switch. Now this engages there, so if you want to go past your close focus of 0.85 or whatever it is, you can do that much like a broadcaster V4ENG lens by engaging the macro function. Then you can focus actually using this collar. That works quite well, gets you a little bit closer. It's nice to have. It's a shame that the default close focus is 0.85 and not perhaps something like 0.5. There's a couple of occasions when I've been out shooting with it, I found that, you know, I just got a little bit too close to the subject, ran out of focusing room, and yes, I could have engaged the macro, but that's not a sort of smooth focus transition. You know, you can't kind of go, I'm getting closer, 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 and then, oh, and now I'm going to put the macro on. You have to know that you're going to be close for the macro shots. But all in all, didn't find that too much of a problem. Would I prefer it closer? Yes, but I can live with it at 0.85. It's certainly closer than the Sony 28 to 135, which I think is 0.95 or close to a meter. So, you know, that's one of the alternatives. This is clearly a bit closer than that. Zoom range, 18 to 55. It's a reasonable zoom range for a lens like this. It's actually very close to the 17 to 55 Canon, which is obviously very popular. So I thought I'd give you a little comparison here size-wise between the 17 to 55 2.8 Canon here with a Metabones adapter and the 18 to 55 Fujinon. And as you can see, they are, you know, the Fujinon's slightly bigger, longer, but it's actually narrower, believe it or not. Sort of see it side by side here. And weight-wise, yeah, the Fujinon's maybe a little bit heavier, but it's marginal. So when you zoom the Canon, obviously it gets longer, but even at maximum extension with a Metabones on, it's still a good sort of, I don't know, 2 centimeters shorter, 3 centimeters maybe shorter than the Fujinon. Now, I mean, you know, clearly this is not really a fair comparison in terms of price. You know, this lens is probably 3 times, if not more, you know, more expensive than this combination here. But in terms of practically what the choice is for what you're going to use on the camera, then, you know, this is one of the more common options. All in all, I think this is a good alternative to a lens like that. The only thing it doesn't have, of course, because there's no electronic contacts whatsoever, is image stabilization. So no IS with this lens, unless you use a body with IS like the A7R Mark II or the A6500. So if you want to add filters to the lens, you can do. There's an 82mm thread in here, and you can simply just screw on a variable ND filter. So this is a Genus 82mm ND filter, fader ND, and here it says you can just thread it on like so. So if you are using an A7R Mark II or an A6500, you can use this method for filtration. Another thing to note is that if you add the lens hood on, you can still get a lot of filters to attach to that 82mm thread inside there. This one is proving a bit awkward, but if you had a normal filter, you'd be able to get it inside there. Also included with the lens is this rather nice pouch, so you can wrap it up in this pouch if you want to, and then you get not just a cap for the front of the lens hood, you also get, included in the box, a routine push-on cap as well that has the lovely Fujinon name. It's very sort of retro looking actually, that cap. Could be something straight out of the 80s, but yeah, that works very well. Also in the box you get this little zoom lever thing here, which you can screw in there, and that will just give you easier control of zoom. So another thing you get is this lens support which actually screws into the bottom here. And then these are actually 3/8 in the bottom, and you can make this shorter or longer depending how long your rods are away from the lens, and clearly you'll need something that's 3/8 to come up and support into that. So as you can probably tell, I really like this lens. I think Fujinon has done a great job here in making a lens that is not just constant aperture, it has a useful range, but it also has really good mechanics. It feels like a proper lens. It's not a photo lens, and they should be commended for doing that.